Hello class. So you finished modules 7, 8, and 9 dealing with consciousness, and I have a couple of take-home points for you for these modules. The first one really deals with conscious versus subconscious processing. What the research shows is that we actually process information on several levels. So there are many aspects of our processing that we're unaware of, that are going on below the surface, but that contribute to our conscious experiences. As far as another related issue, it is the issue of multitasking and whether we are able to multitask. And the idea of multitasking is that we can actually juggle several different tasks at the same time. In actuality, research shows that that is not an accurate way to look at how we juggle our tasks. In essence, what we do is we engage in very rapid serial tasking, but not multitasking, meaning that we go back and forth from different tasks in serial order, in kind of a line order, but we do not handle several tasks simultaneously. So that's just something to consider when you say you're a good multitasker. It might be that you're very good at switching back and forth between different tasks, but that you're serial tasking, not multitasking. So another point that I want to raise is REM versus NREM sleep, and specifically the overall difference associated with high brain activity in REM sleep, but very little voluntary control over the body, whereas in NREM sleep, there is a lower degree of brain activity, and we actually have more control over the body. So when somebody is rolling over in their sleep, it's actually likely to occur in NREM sleep, not REM sleep. Of course, in REM sleep, that's the time when we dream. The brain is very active, but we're unable to act out our dream. The body is like a rag doll during REM sleep. And that's actually very adaptive. In fact, people who are on a certain level able to act out their dreams, in other words, they have a greater degree than typical control over physical activity during REM sleep, have what is known as REM behavior disorder. And again, that's the idea that they have more voluntary control. They can actually hurt others if the others are sleeping next to them, or perhaps even hurt themselves via acting out their dreams. Okay, so that's something to consider. As far as one of the questions on your, I believe it was on a module question, was whether sleep in younger people throughout the course of a night gets lighter or deeper. And in actuality, across the course of a night, sleep gets lighter. We spend more time in REM sleep and the lighter stages of sleep than in the deeper stages of sleep. Okay? As far as another issue related to this, if you are a person who thinks that you never dream, or somebody has ever told you that they never dream, take a look at the graphic that draws out the course of a night's sleep, and note that there are many REM periods, many dream periods. In order for us to remember a dream, we have to wake up from that dream. And in most REM periods, we dream, but then we go back to the deeper stages of sleep, so we don't remember those dreams. And so if somebody ever says to you, I don't dream, yes, they do, they just don't remember their dreams. As far as the stages of sleep, I also want to point out that while there's a lot of emphasis on that REM, that dream sleep, all stages of sleep are important. So envision REM as one purpose of maintaining the brain's responsiveness. Envision NREM as providing the body with a rest. So we need both. Okay? The final point that I want to make is in reference to hypnosis, and specifically the question of whether hypnosis is an altered state of consciousness. This is actually a debated issue in psychology. As far as hypnosis, the camp that states that it is not an altered state actually points to a lack of physiological evidence. So if a state, or if within a state there is a change in neurological activity compared to typical states, conscious states we experience every day, If you see that change in neurological activity, then that state has evidence for being an altered state. Hypnosis does not have an abundance of strong evidence for being an altered state of consciousness. So that's something to keep in mind regarding hypnosis. An interesting thing about hypnosis, however, if you talk about, for example, a hypnotic hallucination, more specific example that a fly is buzzing around your head, so assume that the person is hypnotized and they're given this suggestion and they have that hallucination, the areas of the brain that would be active if an actual fly were buzzing around the head are active in the hypnotized individual. So the experience, while it might not be an altered state, is a very real experience. Okay? So those are my closing thoughts, my take-home points for these modules, and I will see you in the next video.